On September 16, 2024, the president of Kenya flew to Germany to conclude a very interesting agreement. And the reason why I'm saying this agreement is very interesting is because of all the political debate and somehow all the fuss that is creating internally. And when I say internally, I'm talking about the Kenyan political landscape. Some politicians are in favor of that newly signed agreement, and some obviously are not. But what this agreement is about, what are the key takeaways or the key principles, of this agreement? Well, stay tuned. Welcome to your favorite podcast, Smart, Intellectual, Knowledgeable African. I'm S.I.K.A, and as always, I'm happy to be with you today. If you're not yet a part of our amazing community of young African intellectuals and people who are profoundly passionate about Africa's development, I invite you to click on the subscribe button so that you no longer miss out any episode. You can also activate the ring bell and click on the like button and comment and share any episode that you definitely enjoy. Well, coming back to our topic, like I said, a couple of days ago, President Ruto was in Germany. And the reason of his visit was definitely for work. It wasn't for pleasure. Decided to go to Germany because he had to conclude a new agreement with Germany. What's this agreement about? Well, simply put, Germany is now, since the 16th of September, authorizing Kenyan with a specific set of skills to actually come and find employment in Germany. This sounds good, right? Then what's the catch? Or why the fuss? Because you literally have a developed economy entering into an agreement with a developing economy and giving opportunities to some talented people and highly skilled professional to come work and live in Germany. But obviously, Germany is not doing that because they are so fond of Kenyans. They are not doing that because they love Kenyans, to some extent. Of course, you have to entertain, some level of professional relationship and some level of professional diplomacy between countries. But like, why Germany will do that? What do they stand to gain? Or what is it for Kenya to gain? Of course, Kenya gains something, but what about Germany? Well, in return, the Germans are expecting Kenyans, or the country at least, to turn into a new migration haven. Well, let me be more clear. And also, obviously, let me use like plain English. In simple word, what does it mean? Well, Germany receives, a number of applications every year. Some people are applying for specific categories of visa to be able to live freely and to gain access to employment in Germany. But unfortunately, the country, as any other country, has a quota. It has its own limits because when taking people in, it's not just about, giving them shelter. You also have to provide for them in terms of employment, in terms of education. You also have to make sure that they also have access to the resources available to your people. So to speak clearly, if you're inviting people over, you have to take care of them. And it costs a lot of money. It's very expensive. So the new scenario or the new solution found by developed countries is to enter into some sort of win-win international agreement with other countries that are, more willing to deal with the flux of application and the flux of migrant that the developed nation, is no longer in position to accommodate. So in another word, Germany in return is expecting from Kenya to actually give authorization and to give shelter and to accommodate and to receive, every migrant, that the country will no longer be able to support or to give access to. Well, this is where the problem is because according to some politicians and some Kenyan politicians, this decision is not a good decision simply because on one hand, it might actually incentivize all the skilled professional in Kenya and skilled labor to actually flee the country. They will probably, abandon or, resign from the current position and go to Germany. Another critics is that according to some Kenyan politicians who are definitely from the opposition, the opposing side, they also claiming that this law has a quota. What is a quota? Simply put, a quota is a total number, a defined number of people or individual who would be granted access, to live and work in Germany on a yearly basis, which according to the officials, it's completely wrong and completely false. There's no quota in the agreement recently signed between the two countries. So which means that on the assumption, where a limited number of Kenyans would only enjoy that newly created opportunity, the answer is wrong. This opportunity might be available to every Kenyan so long as you have a specific set of skills and so long as obviously you have the means to immigrate to Germany. But the opposing side is definitely not seeing why Kenya should have agreed or would have actually decided to sign that kind of agreement, because according to their perception, it's not beneficial for them. Well, my personal take is that this is very tricky. This is very difficult because, like I say, it's quite interesting to be granted, a freeway, like I said, somehow a freeway, because having a specific set of trained people who clearly did not have maybe or do not enjoy the level of financial freedom that they should be enjoying thanks to their training, and now being given the opportunity to go and work elsewhere. I think personally, it's an advantage. It's an advantage for Kenya because first, on one hand, you will have dual citizenship and people with both citizenship who will be granted, freedom of travel and freedom of movement from both countries. And from an economic perspective, this is very interesting and this is very boosting for any local economy, for any local market. The second benefit, in my opinion, is the access to higher education and better education. Because as much as you may be skilled in Kenya, when it comes to education, the Germans are actually, like one of the best destination for studies, for technical studies, in terms of technology, in terms of engineering. So being able to open new doors for your people, for the youth, for, people already working, I think personally, it's also beneficial and it will be very beneficial, for the country, because the people who will definitely go to Germany at some point, they might actually come back and they will definitely or certainly come back with the skills, their knowledge, their experience, and their trainings. And they will also be able, like I say, to create and to open new business, to create new economic areas that will benefit, the local people. In terms of the drawbacks, well, I personally think that it's very debatable whether or not an African country would turn into a migration haven, given the fact that the country is already, like in a very challenging position when it comes to accommodating the locals, when it comes to accommodating its own citizens. Will Kenya be able to cater and accommodate and make sure that, the new wave of migrant or the new wave of, international asylum seeker or visa seeker that wanted to live in Germany will actually find the same opportunity in Kenya? In my opinion, that's where the most critical challenge lies. I don't know what you think. Feel free to drop your position, to drop your comment on this very interesting topic. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening to your favorite podcast, Smart, Intellectual, Knowledgeable African, the podcast where strong realities meet powerful perspectives. À bientôt.